Morning, beautiful day here on the coast of Maine. I have a lot to do today, as I'm sure you do as well, but I want to do two things. One, I want to explain to you what we mean when we say the word awakening. We're an awakening company. We help our clients, brands become awakened. What does that mean? Why does it matter? And also, I need to change the strings on this guitar. This guitar has been in my family for 2 or 3 decades. It's a 1968 Gibson B25. Gotta love that belt buckle scratch on the back. That means she's well loved. My grandmother found this at a yard sale in the 90s and called my father and said, "Hey, there's a guitar here for $75. Do you want it? It says Gibson on it." And he said, "Sure, what the hell?" And she bought it, and the rest is history. This is a beautiful guitar, and I need to change the strings on it. So when we started our brand consultancy back in 2014, I was a pastor, and I was very interested in the world of ministry and helping people get out of their own way and using spirituality as a vehicle to broaden people's perspectives, to see a bigger picture, to perhaps think not less of themselves, but think of themselves less often, and to become more others-centric and focused on all of that. When I started this brand consultancy, I quickly learned that business is also a mechanism through which we can help others and we can inspire others, and products and services can also be a vehicle to serve people and to help people get out of their own heads. Dang, that one was in there. But we quickly realized that design for design's sake was not going to save the world, was not going to change the world around us for the better. And here's where perhaps one of the biggest distinctions right out the gate that not all business leaders are interested in even viewing their business as a platform to which they can influence culture at large. Some people just want to punch in and sell a product, make a paycheck, and go home at the end of the day. This is not for those people. Fast forward a few years, and I was falling out of love with what I was seeing in the American evangelical church, but I was more inspired than ever to help business leaders and nonprofit leaders and people of influence of all shapes and sizes use their platform for good. What we've seen in culture with some of the decline in organized religion and decline of other modes of belonging and different clubs and tribes and country clubs that we might have belonged to over the years, we as consumers, as people in a culture, are finding more and more of our identities in the companies that we buy from, for better or worse. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying it's a thing. So, what do we do with that fact? Some of the smartest brands and the brands that we know and love have already done this, and we subconsciously do this from the companies we buy from. Something that we all do, I think subconsciously, is we collect the brands we buy from, and each one makes a little facet of our identity and how we view ourselves or how others view us. It's like a Girl Scout sash. If you think back to these little badges that say, "Oh, I know sewing, I know cooking, I survived a night in the outdoors." All of these little things, we have brand logos like that we build our own identities around, whether they're accurate to who we are today or they're more aspirational about who we want to be tomorrow. And the biggest brands in the world have already recognized this, and they've taken advantage of it. They don't stand for the products or the services they sell. They stand for the aspirational identity of the people that buy from them. If you think of a brand like Patagonia, Patagonia stands for far more than durable outdoor wear. Patagonia stands for conservation, and they've quite literally put their money where their mouth is over the past few years. When you buy from Patagonia, when you wear something from Patagonia, you're saying something in a nonverbal way to the world around you about who you are and or who you aspire to be. Think of a brand like Tesla. They make electric cars, but what they stand for is acceleration. They're for early adopters. They're for people who are happy to be identified with people out on the front lines of a culture change. If someone asked you about the Nike brand, you might see the swoosh, you might hear the tagline, "Just do it," but what they really stand for is empowerment, empowering the athlete in all of us. Same thing with Apple, of course. Apple stands for creativity, creative tools for creative people. Emery, and what we're saying we stand for, is awakening. We want more and more brands to wake up to their deeper purpose because I think culture at large will benefit from it. If consumers are looking for meaning and they're giving brands the platform to do so, it's not manipulation if everyone's in agreement. So for a brand to become more explicit and overt about the values and the things they care about in the world, it's actually just good business. So what is an awakened brand? An awakened brand is self-aware of the role it plays in the world and has aligned its purpose, its personality, and its practices. Self-aware. What does that mean? Being self-aware of the platform you've been given as a company. Now, maybe you have a huge audience on social media and whatever, but maybe you're like most of us and you don't. Your brand's purpose affects everything, from external marketing efforts to internal recruitment, retention, your internal culture, your employer brand, how people think about you as a company, both to buy from but also to work for. And again, this is not something that everyone has already woken up to. So if you're thinking about this now, you're already ahead of the game. Discovering or rediscovering the purpose of your company is one of the most empowering things in the world. It's as if you're seeing yourself in the mirror clearly for the first time. It's empowering, it's inspiring, and that catches wind throughout the organization. But also, that's where many brands stop. They've nailed their purpose and they feel like now they can go out into the world and just everything will flow naturally. There needs to be intention flowing from your purpose down into the personality of your company. What do we mean by personality? We mean the aesthetics, the visual identity, and the verbal identity. How you show up physically, aesthetically in the real world. It's a way to express everything that is unique about you. Because listen, we could have the same purpose, we could both stand for the same thing, the same why behind our company, but how you show up and how I show up are fundamentally different. If you were filming this video, maybe you'd be in a three-piece suit, maybe you'd be in swimwear at the beach. I'm sitting in my office changing my guitar strings. Personality is an opportunity to differentiate from your competitors in a very meaningful way, and here's the kicker, in a way that is authentically you. Because to the degree that you are authentically aligned with the external personality of your business is the same degree to which you will feel sustained and enduring in your ability to represent the brand long term. In other words, people will know if you're playing a part, and it will be exhausting if your external brand is not a reflection of your actual personality. Personality is where we can have all sorts of quirks and idiosyncrasies. Make it weird. The weirder the better. People will remember weird. You're operating in a crowded marketplace. Blending in is boring and fitting in is failure. Last, and certainly not least, your practices are your brand's behaviors. It's where you show up in the world intentionally, where you don't go, what you do say, what you don't say, all the touch points you have with your audiences, and approaching all of that with intentionality. Okay. Does that sound good? Now we have to tune it. You have to strum it back out of tune. Guitars with fresh strings fall out of tune all the time because there's all sorts of stretching that goes on even amongst the metal, and there's all sorts of little gaps here in the headstock where I put the strings on that need to sort of pull and yank their way out. So that's what we mean when we talk about awakening. You certainly don't have to work with us, but you should work with someone. Your organization will thank you and your customers will thank you. What's the best that could happen?